don't think so. No, I got on mine and it looked like it's yeah, my mic and my camera.
Okay. Well, we live now.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome world. Welcome. All right, welcome world.
I was just checking to see if it's up on YouTube. Live on YouTube. All right. You wanna go ahead and bring us in, man. You're the host.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Becoming American. Uh you can call me Mr. C. I'm here with my cousin, Rashard. We've been talking about this for a while. It's something we've been trying to get into. We agree, but we disagree on a lot of stuff. But the point of this is, it's it's in the name, becoming American. What we was looking at was after. We're looking at a lot, but right now, what we're trying to discuss is what did Black America look like directly after slavery for what 30 years?
Yeah,
What?
probably. Yeah, probably maybe a century. Yeah, probably like 100 years.
Yeah, well, I'm saying like at least to the 20s, right? That we're
Yeah,
gonna be talking about,
yeah,
pretty. So, and we wanted to see how becoming an American, what that looked like to our ancestors, and what does that, equate to us today going forward.
yeah,
Um, we we really we know that we're gonna piss y'all off, and we know that y'all gonna hate us. Some of y'all gonna agree with us, but our goal is not to get anybody to agree with us or to get anybody to disagree with us. Our goal is to give out information, factual information that cannot be reputed. Your feelings, we don't care about them. We just give them the facts of what actually went down. So that's what we're trying to get to right
yeah,
now.
yeah. I also want to add that this particular podcast is our goal is focused on Americans descendants of slaves and not the black diaspora.
Right.
We want to focus on the Americans descendants of slaves because those are our ancestors, and uh, I personally feel like our history has largely been lost or co-opted by various by like just partisan discussion, and no one really seeks to know like the truth about it. The way the story is normally told is we skip over everything. We give brief highlights about the beginning, and then we move all the way to 1960, uh, when the ADOS community became very partisan as far as the Democratic Party goes. And, um, our history, uh, at least from my understanding of our history, it looks a lot different than just a partisan or Democratic aligned identity. And so it's not my goal to be partisan or anything. I'm not trying to sway anybody to vote anyway. I just want an accurate assessment of the ADOS history, and that's really all my goal is.
Yeah, I'm to the point now where I, I I would probably tell people not to vote. I hate this.
I don't.
I know, but I'm saying I hate this idea of uh, pick the lesser of two evils.
Mm,
I'm just not going to. It's one of two things. You either going to play with the system no matter who's in charge, or you're going
mm,
to buck the system no matter who's in charge.
mm,
So you know that because if you look at it realistically, neither party, as of recently, have had any of our goodwill
Mm-hmm.
mine.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have my goodwill and mine, you don't have, you just looking out for you. I why would I vote for you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that. Uh, so yeah, want to go ahead and introduce the topic or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
content today.
Okay. All right. So uh, we've been looking at a book by W.E.B. Du Bois called "The Black Reconstruction," and what's the full title, cuz? I'm
It's
sorry.
just Black Reconstruction in America from
Uh,
1860 to
260, yeah.
1880.
Right.
I
1860 to
actually
1880.
have it here. This is the actual book.
All right. And if you know anything about W.E.B. Du Bois, he was alive during this period. He is the direct descendant of slavery, and so he's pretty close to it. And he
Yeah,
grew up outside of this slavery, so he knew what Black America looked like post Civil War, and he knew what it was becoming because of politics and I guess what the way politics was moving in the Black community.
yeah. So he was born in 1868. So just after the Emancipation Proclamation, and he, just a stellar scholar. This actual book was written in 1835, so it was one of his later books. I believe he lived to, well into his 90s.
Yeah.
Um, but maybe we'll get into it down the road. But he gives us the reason why he wrote this book in the last chapter, and it's primarily because he really didn't like the how slavery and particularly the descendants of slaves were being discussed in history. He calls it propaganda. He even calls it propaganda within the first two chapters, which we'll be covering today. Um, and so he writes this to sort of to bring a balance to what he would call like this full onslaught of like color cast uh, that the West describes, and so yeah, we'll even get into more of that uh, probably maybe today.
Right, right. Now we're not saying that this is the only view of the history during that time. We understand that there were other uh, prominent Black leaders at the time that Banneker and what's your boy name? How am I having a brain fart? Your boy Killer might say he a direct descendant of him.
Yeah, Booker
Uh,
T.
Booker T. Washington, and so there was a couple other guys. They had different ideas. There was Pan Africanism going on, moving back to Africa. It was a lot of different stuff going on that some of our people wanted. So we're not saying that this is the only view. We're just giving you our outlook on his view of the situation during the time.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, where
Because
you want to start?
they didn't agree, right?
So where you want to start?
Uh, I want you to you want to start with your summary that you sent me
Okay,
of what you got? Yeah.
okay. Um, so I got quotes sprinkled into it. I'll skip over the quotes. I basically said the account given by the author in dealing with the issues of slavery and race in America begins with an account on labor, black labor or slaves as the foundation, and white labor as a consequence. So what he does is he kind of gives this he does this peculiar thing because we normally talk about slavery strictly from a moral position, which he also dives into that. but he explores it more from a capitalist position. Um, so he really starts it from labor, and that actually gives it a little more nuance. Um, what 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 I mean, which I believe that the author was saying when he was saying black labor and as a foundation, and white labor or free labor as a consequence, was pretty much within the first two chapters of this book. He really he really shows how the competition of free white labor was diminished due to the existence of slavery. Uh, Not only in the South, even though they tried to box it in, but they tried to expand it, but all throughout. And um, trying to find one of the quotes. Uh, so here's a quote from the book where he talks about.
Give the chapter and page number so they can
Okay,
find it quick if you got it available,
yeah,
or at least just a chapter. They 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 can go read the chapter. That ain't too hard.
yeah. So I'm trying to find the quote where he talks about slavery as competition. I believe it's in. Yeah. Okay.
You
Yeah.
mean it's
So at the beginning of chapter two, he actually he actually quotes this. Says how America became the laborers' promised land, and flocking here from all of the world, the white workers competed with black slaves, with new floods of foreigners, and with growing exploitation until they fought slavery and saved democracy, and then lost democracy in a new and vaster slavery. So he talks about the competition, and that's how he outlined it. Here's another.
yeah.
Uh,
You know,
uh,
I've go ahead,
mhm.
go ahead.
So here's another quote. This is chapter two. The first one was chapter two at the top of the page, page 17. This is chapter two, page 18. Says he's talking about Irish immigrants largely. Uh, these workers came to oppose slavery not so much from moral as from the economic fear of being reduced by competition to the level of slaves. They wanted a chance to become capitalists, and they found that chance threatened by the competition of a working class whose status at the bottom of the economic structure seemed permanent and inescapable. At first, the black slavery jarred upon them. As early as the 17th century, German immigrants to Pennsylvania asked the Quakers innocently if slavery was in accord with the Golden Rule. Then, gradually, as succeeding immigrants were thrown in difficult and exasperating competition with black workers, their attitude changed. These were the very years when the white worker was beginning to understand the early American doctrine of wealth and prosperity. To escape the liability of imprisonment for debt and even gain the right of universal suffrage, he found pouring into New York City, Philadelphia, emancipated Negroes with low standards of living, competing for jobs which the lower class of unskilled white laborers wanted. So,
So yeah, so you know, we all right. So we talk about the, these brothers of ours enslaved, not on their own free will, giving up their labor. I mean, everybody say we should have revolted, all this stuff. We were outnumbered. We could have revolted. Would have resulted in more mass murders that was committed against black people, I believe. But you see how the white society migrating over here looking for a better life. They they saw slavery as a problem, because they can't get no work.
Hmm.
And
Yeah. So that was the
everybody,
interesting.
it,
Go ahead.
it's
Go
just
ahead.
everybody want racist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It, go ahead.
Well, I think the question of racism uh can be put aside because I think everyone was racist at this time. Um, but with
Or
that
shall
being
I say,
said,
everybody didn't agree with slavery at the
yeah,
time.
yeah, that was the thing. It was slavery, and it, to some degree, was an industrial thing. It was a commerce thing. It was labor, right? Uh, now, he goes into like the pros and cons, actually the pros and cons of slavery.
Right.
Um, but it doesn't negate the moral question, which seemed to be the primary issue and ultimately the thing that the founding fathers and everyone else in power in America uh, uh, were they were trying to avoid. And the moral issue was, um, can a man own another man? Can a man be property?
Mhm. Right.
Um, and so, like the racial thing, I think is secondary to that because we're talking about legislation. We're talking about legal laws. I think one of the biggest problems we have today is, particularly for this, this woke ideology, that we can legislate the heart of man, or that we can legislate man to change what they believe or who they are. Now, I think people have the free will. White people have the free will to hate me because I am black. I'm all okay with that. The question is, am I able to participate in the actual promises that come with being an American citizen?
American. Right.
Hmm.
Right. And I agree with you. I agree with you. And that's where I'm, I'm not saying I'm for it or against it, but I'm just saying that is where the separatism come from.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, we can if given the same opportunities, not outcomes, if given the the same playing field or the same opportunities, we succeeded in our own communities without having to uh, trade or do business with a lot of people outside of our community. I mean, the native, excuse me, the I call them natives because Mexicans are really Indians.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Mexicans they do it today. The Asians they do it today. Uh, the Indians from India they do it today. The Jews they do it today. They have a community inside this nation
Hmm.
where they benefit from all of the stuff this nation has to offer, but they do it inside of their community and build up their own community.
Hmm.
And I see that being a good thing for black people. But a lot of black people are buying into this. I think of having to or forcing people to like you, forcing
Hmm.
people to do business with you, and
Hmm.
that has never worked. That has
Hmm.
never worked. It's not going to.
Yeah. And so, well, one of the things that's interesting, um, and I do think that you can say it's a legacy from slavery. Is- I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think one of the problems with separatism as it pertains to the black community is, um, according to W.E.B. Du Bois, it took about 200 years for slaves to be fully assimilated into Western culture. We took their religion as Christians. we spoke their language as English, you know. And he even uses a quote where, and I could show you another quote. Well, he uses a quote with where George Washington uh, says that he quotes the slaves by saying, "Our brothers" or "my brother," "my kinfolk," I think it was. So
Hmm.
there was at one point in time this idea of uh, of slaves being a part of the family structure. So here's a quote from I couldn't find the guy. Um, I I found a part of it. I found some suggestive things. I put the quote into Chat GPT, and Chat GPT suggested um, a few names, but I couldn't find the actual quote. Uh, So here's a quote from W.E.B. Du Bois. It says, "Let us not bother our brains about what Providence intends to do with our Negroes in the distant future, but glory and profit to the utmost by what he has done for them in transplanting them and here and setting them to work on our plantations. True philanthropy to the Negro begins like charity at home, and if the Southern men would act as if the canopy of heaven were inscribed with a covenant in letters of fire that the Negro is here and here forever, is our property and ours forever, they would accomplish more good for the race in 5 years than they boast the institution itself to have accomplished in 2 centuries."
Right.
So, like, there's another quote in the book where he describes slaves as sort of being considered children, but children forever, you know. And
Yeah.
so,
And so, and the way they looked at it is, like you said, children forever. They they saw it as caring for us more like property, but they still had to do everything for us. You know what I'm saying?
investment, yeah,
Right. Right. So it like you take care of your kids. You take them to the doctor. You make sure their health is fine, and you feed them. You house them. You do everything. Now it was a little different in our situation because it was more of they looked at us more as animals, but it's
yeah. But
still
so that's debatable. I think because I actually think that came more along as slavery grew more harsher. At least I what I derived from this book, that slavery actually grew more harsher over times, but there was still this separation. Um, they were. I think the real assessment is that black slaves were not considered humans the same as white men were considered human.
like I said.
Uh,
They looked at us as animals.
but not animals,
Right. Right. Us
not
above and
animals.
right above animals, but less than white man.
Yeah, yeah. It's the color cast, right? It is
Right.
white supremacy
Right.
that that dictates that, okay, the natural status of a black person is slavery.
Right.
You know,
And part of how they got that mindset is not just because of part of it was we were here in a foreign land and we didn't try to escape, we didn't try to run away. We was weighing our eyes about everyday life, but also we were sold here by our own people. So
mhm.
we were slaves when they picked us up. So this goes back further than just how they treated us here. And that's the point I think a lot of people miss.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually found during the studies of this, I actually found a quote from uh from an author that was talking about African slaves in China, and it kind of followed along the same thing. Um, this was very early on. This was like in the like like 900 AD, something along those lines. And so they talked about the slaves as being very noble and very brave, and that's also something that in some way or another it seems like was shared uh, even in some groups, particularly when we get into chapter 4 of this book, we can see that sort of same thing assembled, sort of carried out, that same idea in some parts. But
Yeah,
did
because
that go ahead?
real quick, because it says here that the African slaves in China served in various capacities, including domestic servants, soldiers, and concubines.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that in there. So it we were slaves there. It was on a different level. That's all.
They said it was a very small level as well, but it also seemed
Hmm.
to be for a longer for a very long time. Um, but the reason I bring that up is because um, they also in the book that I cannot find it. That he also talks about how over time, because it lasted so long, the sentiment towards those people, even in China, shifted a to this idea of forever slave. Like
Hmm.
they were born to be slaves.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with, like you said, just the simple fact that there was no revolt. Let's talk about the revolt issue. By the way,
Okay.
I got some good stuff on that. You want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay.
See what you got.
So there's a few things, right? Like one, we talk about like slavery revolts as something that was very popular. When I looked it up in ChatGPT, though, it didn't seem like it was a very common thing. Like Rome had slaves. They had maybe a handful of revolts. Two of them were very popular. One they made a movie out of, Gladiator. Um, but even in that time, slaves had occupied like close to 50% of the population, right?
But a lot of those slaves that they also don't look at is those slaves were enslaved in their own land. They
Yeah,
were in and enslaved. They wasn't
yeah,
taken somewhere else. So to revolt in your own land is way easier to do. And that's my point in saying all that.
yeah. That can be a factor. I think the issue with slavery here, like the reason there wasn't a revolt, is for a few reasons. One of the reasons is like you look at Haiti. Haiti, 80, like 70, 80% of the population were slaves,
Right.
and so they had slaves governing slaves. Obviously, that doesn't work, and eventually they overthrew them. I think it was like 1804, if I'm not mistaken, was when they overthrew them. But in America, what made it so different was white, poor white Southerners who made up about 5 million of the population in the South, and they were actually granted the power to police the slaves,
Yeah.
right?
You're right.
So, so we were because the people that owned the slaves was only about it was less than I believe Well, I think it was
Less than
about it was less than 10.
7%.
Yeah, it was like I think it was 8,000. It was either 8 or 10,000 men actually owned 3/4 of the slaves. So of the 4 million slaves, they owned 3 million of the slaves, and then
Right.
it was another I
Like,
think 2 million that owned 1 million slaves. I don't know how
yeah.
those numbers work.
So it's like 7 or 8% of the population actually owns slaves,
Yeah, yeah,
or
and,
own the majority of them, shall I say?
yeah, and so but they had this class of free white of poor white Southerners who actually hated slavery and they hated the slave because their condition was
Equal to.
was fit. No, well, their condition was solidified because of its existence, right?
Okay.
Because slave labor was the only labor, you
Right.
know.
Right.
And so if you didn't work on the plantations, like as a taskmaster or something over the slaves, you were just poor.
Right.
Also, you didn't get any education
Right.
because the education wasn't important for an agrarian society, uh, and they didn't want to educate the slaves, and
Right.
so their place was solidified in the history. I want to read a quote about this, um, if I can find it. And you can go ahead if
Yeah.
you got
Yeah.
something.
Well, and can you? I mean, just put yourself in their shoes for a minute. Now, I ain't saying feel sorry for them or nothing, but you leave your home country to come to another country for a better life, just to find out that you will have nothing here because of free labor that is the black slave. So you try to go to the north and get in the industrial sector, and they still got free labor up there because they rarely talk about the free labor of the slaves in the north, which it was there. It wasn't on a mass scale like the South had it, but it was there, and they still lived amongst the poor blacks in the north.
Hmm.
And
And
like you
that's what
said,
caused the
they
riots.
yeah they wasn't going to get ahead. They was forever. This country would have ever forever been a class society, which I think a revolt against the government would have happened sooner had it stayed that way much longer. Because just like we see it now, that a lot of us permanent status will be working for other people.
Yeah. So here's a quote um, about essentially what the planners or like capitalists thought about uh, uh, poor whites. Where is that quote?
Oh, they were just talking about this on at the 85 South show about how white the difference between white people and white folks, saying that white folks are the poor class and white people are the upper class, and how they don't associate with one another. I found it pretty good. It's pretty funny,
Yeah, that's
and it's quite true
those
because
guys are pretty funny.
I yeah, I had the conversation with my homeboy, white guy, and he was like, "Yeah, that's true," because they will not identify or associate with trailer park trash.
Hmm. All right,
But
so
we
here's
associate with our thugs though.
yeah, which is crazy, a
Right.
whole other thing. Uh, from all that has from all that has been written and said about the antebellum South, one almost loses sight of about 5 million white people in 1860 who lived in the South and held no slaves. Even among the 2 million slaveholders, an oligarchy of 8,000 really ruled the South, while, as an observer said, for 20 years, I do not recollect ever to have
Oh yeah,
seen
I
or
remember.
heard these non-slave holding whites referred to by the Southern gentlemen as constituting any part of of what they call the South. They were largely ignorant and degraded. Only 25% could read or write. The conditions of the poor white has been many times described: a wretched log hut, or or two are the only habitations in sight. Here resides, or rather takes shelter. Here reside, or rather take shelter, the miserable cultivators of the ground, or a still more destitute class who make a precarious living by peddling light wood in the city. These cabins are dens of filth. The bed, if there be a bed, is layered with something in the corner that defies scenting. If the bed is nasty, what of the floor? What of the whole enclosed space? What of the creatures themselves? Pooh.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Wait, and like this right here, it says niggers. It says in the South, on the other hand, the great planters form proportionately quite as small a class, but they had singularly enough at their command some 5 million poor whites. That is, there were actually more white people to police the slaves than there were slaves. Considering the economic rivalry of the black and white worker in the North, it would have seemed natural that the poor whites would have refused to police the slaves. But two considerations led him in the opposite direction. First of all, it gave him work and some authority as overseers, slave drivers, and members of the patrol system. But above and beyond this, it fed his vanity because it associated him with the master.
yeah, yeah. So, you see, like, it was a very peculiar situation. It was a very different situation than what we are accustomed to, in a lot of ways, the way we think of it, because there was a mass number of poor people who the planners convinced to police the slave. And as we get further along in this book, we actually see how, uh, during the time of Civil War, they actually convinced the poor whites to fight on behalf of slavery, because they told them that if there were no slaves, they would become the new slaves.
Right, right.
And so that also, I think, uh, that
That's
that
not gonna
also
work.
I think, kind of creates kind of gives us an understanding of the tensions that we have today within, like, uh, certain communities between black and white.
Yeah, hold on.
And we'll be back.
Yeah, my bad.
No, you good. You
My
good.
dogs are playing. My dogs are playing. I'm trying to get them to calm down in here.
Yeah, yeah. I got you.
I got you.
Let's talk about,
You said you want to talk about the revolt. That's all you had?
that, well, I thought that was it. That's all I
Okay,
really
okay,
had.
okay,
I mean, I
okay.
think there's another angle to it that I think comes alive, that comes alive, the deeper we get into, uh this book. To me, the other angle is, um there was nowhere for us to go.
Right.
Um
We
Particularly when you this kind of ties into the topic that I wanted to talk about, that I was about to mention. The actual condition of the slave, how they were treated. Uh, he actually is he actually puts it in a very contrasting position um, to what we are accustomed to.
Right.
Um, and so, for instance, this is why I say there's nowhere there's probably nowhere to go because you had two concepts, right? We believe today that slavery was was enacted, participated, and held in place solely by the South.
Right.
That is not true. That's what we're taught. What the truth is that slavery came to America with everyone else. It started throughout the 13 colonies. It, they then had a change of heart, probably led first by the Quakers,
Right.
and then and other
Exactly.
Puritan groups, and they ended up boxing slavery into the
The
South
South. Right.
because
And that, hold on, but what people need to hear, because this is like my point right here was the real Christians, the people who truly believed in God, was some of the Quakers, and they were solely against this, like you said, and
yeah
they made boxing it. That's why the Quakers end up leaving the South and going to the Midwest and other states like that. Go ahead.
yeah uh yeah what but what happened was although they had boxed slavery into the South, you had two things going on. One was the expansion west,
Expansion. Right.
right? But the
Right.
other thing was slaves, the black slave was integrated into industry,
Yep.
and so the entire country was in on enforcing
Yep.
slavery.
And,
Uh
and what a lot of people don't realize too is you was talking about it was moving west. So the whole Civil War started in, was it Kansas, right? Because it started in the fight
yeah, in
over whether
Kansas,
Kansas was,
1854
yeah,
Kansas. Yeah.
was Kansas going to be a slave state or not? And that's
Or free
how,
state.
yeah, or a free state, and that's how all the whole thing got started, man. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want so the way that it was the way that slavery was held in place was actually through what was called the fugitive slave law,
Yep.
right? That
Yeah.
that that said if a slave is caught free, it doesn't matter if he's caught in Tennessee or Maine,
Right. Right.
then they are required to
To
return the
return them.
slave back to his master.
Right.
And so
And the only people that didn't participate was Canada, right?
yeah, you had to get all the way to Canada. So that's the thing, right? And so
Because
you
you
had
couldn't go to South America or Central America because they had slaves.
yeah, yeah, really, you couldn't go to the islands because they had slaves.
Slaves. You could,
Uh, and so really, what you're looking at is right. You're looking at 5 million poor whites who are willing to forcefully participate and holding slavery in place. And
yeah,
then you have the rest of the country. I don't know what our actual population was at the time, but then you have the rest of the country to the north that were bound by law
law.
to enforce slavery,
Right.
and so in the rest of the country, and
Right.
so there was nowhere for them to go.
No.
There was nowhere for them to go.
Right.
Um, but the other thing was one of the other thing that I wanted to highlight was how he talked about, which leads me into my next point, was how he talked about the treatment of slaves. So right, so when you talk about revolting, right, what are you revolting for? You're revolting to try to actually gain some level of freedom that you
Right.
can leverage to a quality of life that you feel like is fits, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Well, listen to this. Let me find this. Uh, all right, so this is I'm a I may try to skip around to try to get the whole point. So this is chapter one, page 9. The slavery of Negroes in the South was not usually a deliberate, cruel, and oppressive system. It did not mean systematic starvation or murder. On the other hand, it is just as difficult to conceive as quite true the idyllic picture of a patriarchal state with cultured and humane masters under whom slaves were as children, guided and trained in work and play. I'm going to skip down to the next paragraph. Uh, the victims of Southern slavery were often happy, had usually adequate food for health and shelter sufficient for mild climate. The Southerners could say with some justification that when the mass of their field hands were compared with the worst class of laborers in the slums of New York and Philadelphia and the factory towns in New England, the black slaves were as well off and in some particular better off.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another part. They received no formal education, and neither did the Irish peasant, the English factory laborer, or the German Bayer. And Bayer just means farm peasant. And in contrast with these free white laborers, the Negroes were protected by a certain primitive sort of old age, pensions, job insurance, and sickness insurance. That is, they must be supported in some fashion when they were too old to work. They must have attention in sickness, for they represented invested capital, and they can never be among the unemployed. So
There it is.
so like I said, so when you talk about, because one of the biggest questions I've always had was, well, why didn't they just rebel? Why didn't they just rise up? Why didn't they
Uh-huh.
start a revolt? Revolt.
All of them weren't treated bad.
Exactly. Exactly. Like like there is a case to be made that the best place for the slave was on the plantation.
What a good master.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the reason I think that's important though is because that brings into question, right, the moral question. That brings into picture the moral question, right? Can a
Yeah.
man be a slave? Is it right to own someone, even if you govern them with benevolence, right? Is it
Yeah.
right to own a man?
Mm. Do we own women?
Shit, don't ask me. I think they own us. So yeah,
I,
so go ahead, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I'll leave that for the comments.
Yeah, I ain't got nothing to say about that. No, but so I think that's the thing that history, uh, at least the history that we're taught today, for excuse me, for one reason or another, it's we don't really want to really talk about the moral the moral issues, right? One of my problems with the way slavery is discussed today is that we have we make it about condition, right? And then of course, then the question has to be asked, well, if it was so bad, then why the hell did it last so long,
No, yeah.
right?
How
You
did it
know,
last so
yeah,
long that
how did it
they
last so long, right?
right?
Like what? And I'm not saying that I answered that question or that he answered that
No,
question, but
it's a question that we're just asking. Yeah.
yeah, that's a question that we asked. But you have to understand that if part of the system was like, oh well, slavery wasn't like this just cruel and unusual punishment, right?
Right.
It still remains that it is. a crime against humanity.
Mandy. Right.
Regardless of how people were treated, it
Right.
still remains that it's a crime against humanity.
Right.
And so instead of them trying to argue the condition as this is why it must be done away with, you have to talk about the moral issue. Can a man be owned by another man? And
Man.
if
Right.
so, what does that do to that man? And he actually talks about that more when we get into the
Well.
planner class, when the planners.
Right. But I look at both ends of that, and I think we all should. What does it do to the man who is owned, and what does it do to the man who owns?
Mm, mm,
You know, ego comes into that, and because if you don't have a moral objection within yourself on owning someone,
mm,
then ego, as well as a lot of other things, obviously, have to be inside of you as a person to make you feel that that is okay. You know what I'm
mm.
saying? It, I think that because if like today, a lot of people wish they could own us again, feel that they would be putting us in a better situation or
Yeah.
what, but and I think that's a
I even look at it. I
moral.
look at it. I even look at it differently. From a political position, right? I think that the system is designed to, in a way, to give benevolence to blacks in exchange for loyalty.
Yeah.
I think the system, and to me, that looks a lot like what the planners were doing
Right.
to try to at least hold slavery in place to some
Right.
degree.
Right.
Um,
Well, they did it. He talks about that in the book. How the during the war, how the planners would talk amongst themselves so the slaves could hear that, oh, the fight's going well. Y'all
yeah,
niggas gonna be slaves. Jump on our team and fight with us. You know what I'm saying? To push these folks back because you see how bad they treat you. Because that's another
mm,
part that people don't look at was during the Civil War, the Union soldiers treated the slaves with way more disrespect than the masters did at times.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, and so it kind of brings to light to me some of the real challenges. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not someone that believes that like the bad parts of American of the ADOS culture is due to a legacy of slavery. I personally think that is due to color cast, and we could talk
yeah,
about that some later. But I do believe that it is important to understand this for what it was, because you can see these repeated cycles, not not from the ADOS community, but from the power structures that are in place, right? These idea of benevolence, right? This idea of white and black, or supremacy, right? Uh, whether it be white or black. Right now, I think we have a problem within the community with black supremacy. You know,
yeah,
and so whether it be white or black, the goal of the powers that be has always been to separate the two groups through color cast, and the way that they do
when
it,
when they are truly equal.
yeah, and the way that they do it is they try to convince us that we are two different kinds of humans.
And that black people, you deserve to be treated with what they call it, baby hands.
Yeah,
And you should be cared for, and that's a slave master mentality. You should be cared for, and we should take care of you. You should be touched with baby hands, and you should be looked after because the caste that you're in puts you lower than everybody else. So we must do for you to help you out
Yeah,
instead
the
of just saying,
benevolence.
yeah, instead of just saying, hey, look, y'all are the same, but we up here with all the money and all the power
Hmm.
are the problem. You know what I'm saying? So, but we'll never see it that way. Well, maybe. I don't know.
There's something going on with my speaker. You hearing something in my headphones?
No,
Yeah, I'm getting a crackling sound, but it's all good.
it could be mine.
It's fine. It's all good
Maybe
as long
me.
as it don't show up on the recording. We'll see. So, I wanted to move to.
The white worker.
You want to talk about the white worker?
I know. I'm sorry. We gonna stay on topic with your outline.
Okay, we can do that. We
Cause
can do the white worker.
yeah. Okay. We're hour in, so yeah, we need to stay on track.
So the white worker.
You want to go there? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I'm trying to
All
find
right.
it.
Let me read the introduction to what he says.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. It says, how America became the labor's promised land and flocking here from all over the world, the white worker competed with black slaves, with new floods of foreigners, and with growing exploitation until they fought slavery. Oh, I think you read this. They
Yeah.
fought slavery
Go
to
ahead.
save democracy and then lost democracy in the new and vast investor of slavery. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you read that. All right, my bad.
No, that's good because
I
that's
didn't know
that's a
you had
good
read it.
segment.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. To be honest, I read that because I forgot the other quote that I was supposed to. It's more fitting here. So, one of the things I did want to talk about because he brings it up here is the word democracy, right?
Right.
It was like this was actually pretty interesting to me because over the years of various civil rights documents that I've read and speeches that I've listened to, the word democracy has been thrown around uh, to mean something bigger than what
What it
we
was
what to mean
what it was
something
written
bigger
to
than
be.
I don't necessarily I wouldn't say that. I would say that it means something bigger than the way we understand it from a political perspective.
Okay.
Because we think of democracy as I think
Everybody has
modern
a
day,
say.
yeah, yeah, or yeah, we think of it as everybody has equal say, or
Hmm.
some type of political like voting cast like type of thing. Um, I think the civil rights activists, probably starting with W.E.B. Du Bois, saw democracy as more of a moral scope,
Yeah.
through a moral scope, um, which was essentially equality. Like all men are created equal, you
Right.
know, and what this means is right that all men have a fair chance under the law to to acquire the things that our forefathers promised us, which was what life, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. Is
Right.
that how I go?
Yep.
And so like when we say democracy, he usually in this particular chapter in chapter two, he really kind of contrasted it with the monarchy that was in Europe. Um,
I'm glad you
because
brought that. Go ahead. Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Well,
No,
the reason, go ahead.
well, no, no. I was just gonna say, and part of that is that the monarchy over in Europe, they wanted to keep slavery for sure because America was supplying them with cheap material that
Hmm.
they got in trade, that they could trade with the rest of the world and help give them control. That's how they became the great power that they are, was through the slave labor here in America.
Hmm.
So, but okay.
Yeah, it was the whole system was tied together through commerce.
Hmm.
As a matter, I actually there's a quote that I can read, but I think I'll wait on that quote. Um,
Okay.
but no, so now when it comes to the way that fits into labor, like particularly white labor, was is that white labor was being oppressed in Europe, right?
Hmm.
And so they came over pursuing what, democracy,
See,
right? A
right.
fair chance to be a part uh of the
Of a
labor
society.
class.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, of the high society based on labor,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, he has a quote where he talks about uh where was it? It
All right.
was at the
You
beginning.
you look for that, and I'm gonna read this because you was
Uh,
talking about democracy. It says the opportunity for real and new democracy in America was broad. Political power was at first as usual confined to property holders and
mm,
aristocrats of birth and learning. So even when they was coming to America, that's why they was doing this expansion,
mm,
because the more property owners they got, the more political power you had, and then if you own land, you would more than likely need slaves,
mhm,
whether you were building industry or if you was farming. You would still need as much free labor as possible to work that land, because you couldn't do it all by yourself. That's why they had so many kids. They was trying to
mhm.
get the land. But all right, go ahead. But yeah,
No, I think you read what I was looking for. That was top of chapter 2, right? Page
yeah,
17.
yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for what was under it, where he says, but it was never securely based on land. Land was free, and both land and property were possible nearly to every thrifty worker,
Thrifty worker, right?
right? And so when you talk about, like you said, for real and new democracy, what is he talking about there? He's talking about land affords us political power, and land is free. And as long as you are willing to work the land, labor, right? You can become a part of a self-sustaining or sort of upper class. And
Right,
so, which leads us right to the white worker, right, in
right,
the North.
right,
So when he talks about the white worker in the North, he actually talks about it. He actually highlights it later on in chapter 2. Uh, really builds up this tension between the white workers and the planter class,
right.
and it
Because
was all over the West. Go ahead.
right, because he says it right here, like the second paragraph. The new labor that came to the United States, while it was poor, used to oppression and accustomed to low standard of living, talking about the white worker, was not willing, after it reached America, to regard itself as a permanent laboring class. And it is in the light of this fact that the labor movement among white Americans must be studied.
Mm. Yeah, and so so he talks about they had a different, like the next chapter, chapter 3, we'll get into what the planters look like.
Right,
But they talk about what he's talking about is how America became the land of opportunity for all white Westerners abroad,
right.
right? And that
Not
ended up
not the Chinese though.
not no no non-white.
white.
no non-white.
Not
But
the
for
Indian, none of
yeah,
them.
no, but
Not the
for
Spaniard.
white, yeah, for white Westerners,
Right.
the opportunity to break free of the labor of what labor looked like, right?
Hmm.
Um, was here, right? Labor
Right.
looked like probably prior to unions, which, by the way, according to this
He
book,
gets into that
Marxism
too.
had a lot of it.
Yeah.
Had a lot to do with that. But yeah, and so uh, they're looking. So to him, so the way he describes it is they're looking for opportunity to break free from oppression, from oppressive labor standards,
Labor.
right?
Right. Right.
Even though they are free, as we read
Right.
earlier, their condition, at least their living condition, is similar and in some cases even harsher than the slave,
Right.
right? And so 19 million labor
Immigrants.
immigrants come
White
over.
immigrants.
Yeah, 19 million white Western immigrants come over, and they compete not only in the labor class with the black slave, they also compete. They're also in a political battle with the planter class
Planners. Right.
over free land.
Right.
And that was actually the backbone of the Civil War
Of
in a sense.
Kansas. The fight
Yeah, that
over
started in
Kansas.
Kansas, called Bloody, I think called Bloody Kansas. Um, I want to so and but what makes it so peculiar is that uh the planter class, the slave owners, right? They thought that they thought that they had, well, they actually did have, they had a massive amount of political power because of slaves, because they had
Yeah.
land, they had the majority of the land. Land was highly concentrated in the South, but not only was land highly concentrated, slaves were counted as property. And so the more slaves you own, the more the more power you got politically as a vote. So we
Yeah.
know that it was counted as three-fifths in the Constitution. W.E.B. Du Bois argued that, and sometimes it was 1 to 1. So for every one slave you own, you got more votes.
Right.
And so that's um and so what makes it really peculiar, and you even see this today, is that, like, here's essentially 19 million white workers, right, who see the threat of slavery, and actually feel the pains as far as, like, working class, that slavery brings, that slavery holds in place, because all slavery holds down some slavery holds down all of labor, right, as far as, like, the conditions and things like that. They see this, right?
Yeah.
They still join the Democratic Party,
Right.
even though the Democratic Party was the party that was pro-slavery.
Yep.
And so that's actually a very weird thing to me. I couldn't understand why. I have to do more research on what actually drew them to the actual Democratic Party. Um, and then, of course, we see that, along with freed and fugitive slaves, which causes riots in the west, in the
Right. Right. Because
north.
if you read page 25 and 26, it talks about what you were just talking about with the unions
Hmm.
was arguing about everything you were just talking about, and but yeah, it's
So here's 25 and 26. I think this is the unions, right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so we are weary of this question of slavery. It is a matter which does not concern us. Yeah. Oh yeah. This was the mechanics, right? I think.
All the unions, the mechanics, the machinists, the blacksmiths, the
Oh yeah.
marshals,
Yeah.
the machinists, all of them was one union, or
Yeah.
maybe it was several unions. I don't know, but yeah, they did a whole speech, and not
Yeah.
once did they mention slavery.
Yeah. They did. Yeah. It was what it says. Funeral Hall in Boston in 1861. I read this. This actually was a really good one because it showed their heart towards slavery. The truth is that the working men care little for the strife of political parties and the intricacies of office seekers. Um, we regard them with the contempt they deserve. We are weary of this question of slavery. It is a matter which does not concern us,
Concerned us,
and we wish only to attend to our business and leave the
and leave the
South to
South
attend
to
to
attend to
their own
own
affairs.
affairs without any interference from the North.
No, look at that.
So look at the North saying, "Hey, keep them niggas down there,
Yeah,
but pay us what we worth."
yeah.
Essentially, you know,
So there's another quote in here where he talks about
stab
uh,
they and basically, I want to go back to that real quick. So
uh
basically, all they was asking the South to do, from my understanding, was stay out of the unions, keep the blacks out of the unions. Don't y'all do any union stuff down there. Y'all stick to picking cotton, sugar cane, rice, and
mhm.
kind of thing. And we'll leave that to y'all and y'all slaves and the poor whites down there. But up here, we gonna be in industry, and we gonna run this the way we see fit.
Yeah, and but there's a key part to that though too, right? They were also saying keep them niggas in the South.
South, yeah.
Don't let them. They can't go west, and they
And they
can't go
can't go
north.
north.
They
Right.
can't go north, and they cannot, and they especially cannot go west because the west is the promised land for us. They got the land. We gonna do our thing in the west. Keep them
Yeah,
in the south.
they got gold and oil and everything and all the natural minerals out west, and we're gonna exploit the white worker on that.
Hmm.
And you slaves stick to picking cotton and sugar cane and rice.
Yeah, and so there's a quote in here. I got to do better with getting my quotes together. Uh, I got a page full of them.
You'll do me a favor real quick, swear. Close the curtains in there when you get them in. You ain't got to do it right now.
Yeah, so chapter 2, page 19.
Okay, you moving back.
All right. He says, and this is the question about the West, right? He says, he starts with Marxism.
Yeah,
Uh, in the 40s, came a different class, the English and German worker who had tried by organization to fight the machine, and in the end had some degree of envisage um, the Marxian reorganization of industry through trade unions and class struggle. The attitude of these people towards the Negro was varied and contradictory. At first, they blurted out their disprobation of slavery on principle. It was a phase of all wage slavery. Then they began to see a way out for the worker in America through the free land of the
of the
West.
West. Yeah.
Uh,
Here's the
here
solution.
was a yeah. Go ahead.
It says, here was a solution such as was impossible in Europe. Plenty of land, rich land coming daily near its own marks, to which the worker could retreat and restore the industrial balance ruined in Europe by the what they say expropriation of the worker from the soil.
Yeah, yeah, and so
And it basically was a way to increase wages because that
okay, so he gives the
it's all
answer right
about
here.
money.
He gives the answer right here. about why they drew to the Democratic Party. I don't think I understood it though. The wisest of the leader could not clearly envisage just how slave labor in conjunction and competition with free labor tended to reduce all labor towards slavery. For this reason, the Union and labor leaders gravitated towards the political party which opposed tariff bounties. Okay, so which opposed tariff bounties and welcomed immigrants, quite forgetting that this same Democratic Party has as its backbone the planters oligarchy of the South with its slave labor.
So like
So so yeah so
it was based on tariffs. Well, I guess Trump
yeah
bringing back
tariffs
slavery.
and yeah there's another one where he talks about it says it's on page 19 chapter 2 but I can't find it. But I read it from here. But here on this free land, uh, they met not only a few free Negro workers, but the threat of mass slaves. Excuse me. The attitude of the West towards the Negro, therefore became sterner than that of the East. And we actually see that. I actually think we see that today. I mean, I live in the Pacific Northwest, and there's very few black people. Very few black people migrated with
I'm,
me.
hey, I'm still looking at Wyoming. Oh, shit. Gotta learn. I gotta start investing in wool clothing.
Oh yeah, I found it. Yeah,
You gotta.
but yeah. So um, there just seemed to be this cast of just this sort of great divide between America. I mean, between the black slave and every other class of people in the country. Right? They were enemies. Of course, they were owned by the oligarchy in the South. Right?
Right.
They were they were despised by the southern poor white, right?
Yeah.
They were hated, uh, or they were hated due to competition by the northern laborer, and they
Right.
were a threat to the immigrant,
Right.
right? Uh, the only class the only group of
Benefited.
people the only group of people who was on the side of the black slave really was the abolitionist group,
Right.
right? Um, and one of them that that I found, he had a very stern sermon. It's under my heroes category. Uh, Lloyd William Lloyd Garrison.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of him?
No. We talked about him for a minute the other day. You brought him up.
So William Lloyd Garrison was an abolitionist. Let me find my info on him.
Well, and this goes back to trying to figure out how the poor whites why how the poor whites would like slavery. And but it says Charles Norhoff states that he was told by a wealthy Alabama man in 1860 that the planters in this region were determined to discontinue altogether the employment of free mechanics. On my own place, he said, I have slave carpenters, slave blacksmith, and slave wheelwrights, and thus I am independent of free mechanics. I am independent of free mechanics. And a certain Alfred E. Matthews remarks, I have seen free white mechanics obligated to stand aside while their families were suffering for the necessities of life when the slave mechanics owned by rich, influential men could get plenty of work and had hard and had heard these same white mechanics breathe the most bitter curses against the institution of slavery and the slave aristocrat.
And so all of it, that's to me that's so crazy to me, right? Because
Right.
they all suffered because of slavery, yet
But
they
didn't want
all
to
hated
stop
the
it.
slaves. I'm like, yo,
Had no interest in stopping it, even though it was
yeah,
put on their neck.
yeah, yeah. And so I think I don't know. I feel like that's
You give me a wet paper towel, please.
yeah. I feel like that's it's one of the things when we get into the planners that we'll see. They seem to be very good at propaganda. That's why I think a lot of the stuff
Just
that we
like
see today.
politics today.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I think a lot of it.
I'm listening.
That's why I think. Yeah, that's why I think a lot of it is. Some of it still may be in place. Some of the power structure, some of the people that were in
Oh,
power.
it's definitely still in place.
Yeah.
Cause look at it today. Even though we are free, we are still the labor force that they are putting the foot to our neck.
Hmm.
And trying to pay us
How,
as little as possible
how do they hold that in place?
politically.
I, I say color cast. I say color cast. I want to say the color cast to the last few minutes, but we almost
W-
at
Yeah,
an
yeah.
hour,
Go,
two
go, go
hours.
ahead. Go ahead and break it down because we're gonna
Oh,
talk
let
about it
me
for.
hold on. Let me talk about William Lloyd Garrison first. I want to read this first.
Okay,
So,
okay, okay.
William Lloyd Garrison was an abolitionist. He's a abolitionist, an American journalist. He was born 1805, died 1879. Founded and edited the anti-slavery newspaper, The Liberator. Uh, he was a very radical Christian, um, uh, particularly pre-Civil War. In his beliefs, he demanded the immediate emancipation of all enslaved people.
Make me some
He
tea.
believed slavery was a moral sin and that the U.S. Constitution, as it stood, was a pro-slavery document.
Document. Yeah, I remember you
Look
telling
at
me
that.
that. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy. He said, and he said he was very fiery. He called the Constitution a covenant with death and an agreement with hell. And he was a radical Christian, bro. He was a radical Christian. So this is one of his quotes. I am aware that many object to the severity of my language, but is there not cause for severity? I will be as harsh as truth and as uncompromising as justice on this subject of slavery. I do not wish to think or speak or write with moderation. No, no. Tell a man whose house is on fire to give a moderate alarm. Tell him to moderately rescue his wife from the hands of the ravisher. Tell the mother to gradually extricate her baby from the fire into which it has fallen. But urge me not to use moderation in a cause like the present. I am I am in earnest. I will not equivocate. I will not excuse. I will not retreat a single inch. I will be heard. Like this guy was, I mean, like he was like crazy harsh. I read one of his sermons earlier today, where he was just like he was a pacifist as well, which was really cool. Um, but he had this one quote where he talked about uh, our only weapons. are the weapons of moral truth. And like, I mean, he was
Yeah.
going off, man, like a really like true like uh uh Puritan Christian that had very harsh words for the institution of slavery.
Did they kill him?
I don't think so. I don't know how he died. Let me ask. I,
Yeah, find that out, because that that sounds like if he was alive today, they would kill him. They say, "Oh, all you gonna do is talk you a pacifist? We're going to show you what pacifism do for you. We're gonna go to kill you. Thank you."
they did it to King. You see, uh, Garrison died May 24th, 1879, in New York City at the age of 73. Known his death. Garrison died of kidney disease.
Yeah, they
All right,
poison him.
complications from heart.
They poison him.
It had been declining in health for several years. Yeah, yeah. So that was really the only group that spoke, that actually supported, that was that's fully saw the ADOS, the Americans who were slaves or the descendants of slaves, who really saw our ancestors as equal human beings.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
else
You
did
hear
not.
that live? Real Christians.
Yeah, real Christian.
Hate it all you want to.
I also read a pro slave uh, Christian sermon from I think it was the guy, I forget, I don't know who it was. I think it was the guy who gave the quote that was talking about slaves, let us rejoice, for slaves are ours and ours forever. It was
Okay.
making a
Yeah,
case for
yeah,
benevolence,
yeah.
uh, which was a very scary. It was very scary.
Well, hey,
Yeah. So yeah. So like you said, there's a difference between real Christians who live out and preach the truth versus the institution, a religious institution
Tushin, right?
that seeks to accumulate power and wealth
And wealth.
and exploit people.
I can't remember where I heard it. This kind of off topic a little bit. I can't remember where I heard it, but it said that somebody said it. Anyway, once you gain so much money and you can buy everything you ever desired, the only thing you want after that is power,
Yeah.
because power and control, because that right there you can never get enough of. So
Yeah. So we're about to talk about color cast.
let's do it.
You ready to do the color cast discussion?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let me see. What did I write at the end of this? I'll read my conclusion, and then I want to read. You want to read the conclusion, and then I'll read this quote from the book.
Up in the cabinet, ain't one? Let me see if, hold on, let me get to the conclusion. I don't know why I can't. Oh, there we go. No, that's not it. I don't know why I'm having a problem. Okay. All right. Conclusion. Slavery, at least in part, was a labor class. It was the existence of this labor class that threatened all other groups within the new nation. It existed disenfranchised the poor white Southerner. It drove down labor prices in the North. It held the harsh conditions of labor study abroad. And yet, no one could come to the conclusion that slave labor undermined the rights of all labor in the West. say a few. What is even more startling is that this claim that slavery was resurrected in the form of color casts, this idea I believe he is referring to is the rise of white supremacy throughout the Western world and part of Eastern Europe, somehow still rings true today. I suppose one could say the ideas of the Confederacy has long outlived the rebel party. I like that. I like that.
So,
You put a little thought in that one. All right.
so where is it? I should have been getting this together because I actually changed my mind. That's I wanted to read something else. Uh, what was it? Let me just read this. It says, then came this battle called Civil War, beginning in Kansas. Oh no, this is what I wanted to read, but not without struggle. Okay. Oh yeah, now this is what I want. I got a lot. I'm gonna try to get it. America thus stepped forward in the first blossoming of the modern age and added to the art of beauty, gift, a gift of Renaissance, and to the freedom of belief, a gift of Martin Luther and Leo the tenth, a vision of democratic self-governance. uh, the dominant the domination of political life by the intelligent decision of free and self-sustaining men. What an idea and what an area for his realization. Endless land of riches, fertility, natural resources such as Earth seldom exhibited before, a population infinite in variety, a universal gift burned in the fire of poverty and caste, yearning towards the unknown God, and self-reliant pioneers, unafraid of man or devil. It was the supreme adventure in the last great battle of the West, for the human freedom which would release the human spirit from lower lust for mere meat and set it free to dream and sing. And then some unjust God leaned laughing over the ramparts of heaven and dropped a black man in the mist. so,
Yeah.
so uh, but as he goes on, right, I'm going to skip down. Um, but they said slavery was wrong, but not all wrong. Slavery must perish and not simply move. God made black men, God made slavery, and the will of God be done. Slavery to the glory of God, and black men and as his servants, and ours. Slavery as a way to freedom, the freedom of blacks, the freedom of whites, white freedom as the goal of the world, and black slavery as the path thereto. Up with the white world, down with the black. And then I'm gonna read this last part. Indeed,
Okay.
the plight of the white working class throughout the world today is directly traceable to Negro slavery in America, on which modern commerce and industry was founded, and which persisted to threaten free labor till it was partially overthrown in 1863. The resulting color caste, founded and retained by capitalism, was adopted, forwarded, and approved by white labor, and resulted in the subordination of colored labor to white profits the world over. Thus, the majority of the world's laborers, by the insistence of white labor, became the basis of a system of industry which ruined democracy and showed its perfect fruit in World War and Depression. And it says, and this book seeks to tell that story.
What book is that?
This book.
Okay.
This book.
Okay.
So I believe what he's talking about is we see this so much today. This is one of my biggest problems actually with the conservative right, the Christian conservative right. Uh, Everything has been recasted in this world, and I will and probably pre the civil rights movement even more so. But excuse me, everything has been recasted in this world as white and black, right? And we've seen the recovery of this primarily in a different twist. That's why I'm always talking about black supremacy is the problem that I see in our society today. Because what has happened is everything that is, let's say, that's considered good and noble and honorable and Christian, right? Or
Right.
uh, has been casted as white culture, and everything that is considered rebellious and ignorant and disrespectful and poor is considered
Uneducated.
black culture, right? And to me, this is how the color cast work, and this is also how they hold uh let's say the black capital underneath, right? Because we reject Christianity, we reject capitalism, right? If you're black, you're a Marxist. You know, if you're black, you support lasciviousness things like LGBTQAI BS, right? Like if you're black, you support things that are unfruitful, right? And,
Right.
and and that's what they have told us that black means. And I'm like, how did this happen? And I believe he's saying this, that like capitalism, which is a proven system, right? That is a proven system to work, right? Capitalism is white, you know.
I'm just playing devil advocate here. Capitalism has an expiration though, because once so many people get that capital, like only a few will obtain it, essentially, and it's
Yeah,
not for everyone that's in the system. Only a
yeah,
few obtain it, so there will always be a lower class in
yeah.
capitalism.
It always be a lower
So
class than anything.
right. So why would I subscribe to a system that is going to make me forever lower class?
So, but so all systems create lower class, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm a
Not
capitalist.
socialism. Socialism makes
No,
everybody
social,
equal. It takes
no
from those who have too
socialism.
much and give to those who don't
No,
have
it does,
enough and bring us
no,
up so we
no,
can
it
be
doesn't.
equal.
No, it does not. That's what
How
they
it doesn't?
because we've seen it. It never works like that. That's what they say it does. It never does that.
But in its pure
Socialism,
form,
no, there is no such thing as a pure form. That's what I'm saying. Like, ideally, that's what it does. Like, like in practice, socialism makes more people poor. It always has. Now we're about to see, and don't get me wrong, I'm a
and
capitalist. I'm
but
a
it also
capitalist.
yeah.
But
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 socialism also makes you want to make some people that if I create and then I have to give half of it away, why
it
create?
disincentives. Yeah, it disincentivizes. That's why it creates more poor people because it disincentivizes labor. But let me say this: don't get me wrong. I'm a capitalist because I believe that the system works. However, I am not that kind of capitalist uh, that thinks that capitalism, I mean that socialism is of the devil. Like I'm not that kind of capitalist,
Mm.
and that's my point, right? That this color cast thing has rebranded everything Western to be Christian, to be right. And what I'm just saying is it's BS. There is a clear distinction between the gospel of Jesus Christ and what he has acquired of us and Western ideology. They part ways in a lot of ways, right? And so, like for instance, the Second Amendment is considered Christian. Well, the Second Amendment is just Western. It has nothing to do with the gospel, right? It has nothing to do with it. And so and I feel like
How do you feel that is only Western, that is not biblical to well, I guess at its core, I'm going back. At its core, I can see the right to carry arms, but the right of self protection from
uh,
evil, I don't think is a is not anti Christian, shall I say?
but it's not Christianity. That's
Right,
what I'm saying. It's
right,
not Christian. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying
right.
that God didn't. God
Neither is
created.
freedom of speech. Then
No, freedom of
neither
speech
is the
is
right to
also not.
vote. Right.
No, none of that.
None of
None of
that.
that
Right.
stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like there's a difference, and instead of saying, okay, this is Western, this is non-Western, like capitalism is Western and socialism is non-Western.
Communism.
Yeah, communism is non-Western, even though it is,
Right.
because I think Karl Marx was in Germany at the time. He's Jewish, but he was like he grew up in like a Western society.
Sorry.
So, but but it didn't work, and so they cast it as non-Western or non-white, right?
All right.
And to me, they're like it can be Western. Western may work. Like capitalism to me works. Socialism does not work. But I am not a capitalist because I'm a Christian, and I am not a Christian because I'm a capitalist. I'm a
Right.
Christian because I believe in the resurrection of Jesus, right?
The
I am
life,
not.
death, and resurrection. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Like I am not. I am not like I consider myself an American, like
All the way.
all the way. But you
Ain't
know,
go nowhere else. I've been to all those other, well, not all of them, but
what?
I've been to a whole bunch of places. And you don't want it. I
Well,
don't believe people. I don't believe it truly fits most people ideas of what freedom looks like.
yeah, yeah, and I agree with you because we've kind of just seen that, right? We've seen, you know, uh, we've seen, you
That
know,
everybody moves here. Don't nobody.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We've seen non-Western ideals fail
Right.
worldwide, right?
Right.
But like I like to me, that's the problem that I have now, particularly with the political rhetoric, right? Is that they have cast, and I believe we're moving away from it. Like to me, Charlie Kirk was someone who was they cast him as a racist because he believed in Western excellence, right?
Right.
But if you actually listen to his words, he actually disputed this black college student that believed that black and white people were two different kind of people.
People. Yeah.
And he disputed this black guy and said, no, race is a social construct. Like
Right.
all of the scientific evidence says we are the same.
Right.
And he was cast as a racist fool,
Right.
right? And so but that's what I mean by like it like somehow Black culture has accepted fully this idea of of we are not we are non-Western. We are not a part of this. And I actually think that there's a swelling part of conservative right that I actually do appreciate that 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 says, no, you guys are included in this. You guys are a part of this. You are just as Western as we are. Um, my goal, my goal for for this whole thing is to help, particularly the ADOS community, to come to understand this, that
Mm-hmm.
we are Western and we have the same rights and can participate in the system in the same way if we choose, right?
Right. Right. And I got a couple things on all that. I agree with you on that. Yeah, we have the same rights. We should participate in it. Uh, and there is a level of conformity that comes with that. But I don't believe that we have to give up a lot of things in our. I hate saying the culture because when you say black culture, it's a lot of it that I totally disagree with. I'm not on board with. But
Because it's not black culture. A lot
no,
of it
it's
came from poor whites.
right, right, and that's another book I would like for us to discuss too. White liberals and yeah. Anyway, so but
Black rednecks, white
the
liberals,
next yeah,
black
liberals yeah,
rednecks.
uh, but to participate in this system, we must first realize is just like the slave who didn't rebel because he truly had nowhere else to go.
Mm,
We have nowhere else to go right now.
mm, mm,
So we better get on board with participating in this system, or we can overturn it and cause great strife and then be somewhere else that we don't want to be with nowhere to go.
mm.
So it's but going back to your colorism or color
Color
cast
cast.
that you were saying, uh your the color cast was in my eyes was a little different during slavery, the end of slavery, because what a lot of people don't know, the Creole community down in Louisiana area, and it spread over a little bit. Um, everyone knew that they were half black,
Yeah. You know they
but
own slaves.
that's what I was getting to.
Oh,
But
oh, my
but
bad.
everybody knew they was half black, but they were so light
Hmm.
that they owned slaves. They participated in the planters politics.
Hmm.
They wanted to keep slavery around.
Hmm.
Uh, they wanted it to move west, and these were black people, just happened to be light skinned,
Yeah.
but these
They
were
were
what
mulattoes. They were mixed.
right.
Yeah.
But this is what it is hard for, I guess, some black people to get is that when you, I hate saying this, not when you conform to a society, but when you participate in a society, you participate in it fully. And
Hmm.
that's, I think, what the Creoles did. Now, today, we can look at the Hispanics, we can look at the Asians, we can look at the Indians from India. Uh, they participate in this society within their own community,
Yeah.
but they participate fully. Those who do it legally, who are here legally, they pay their taxes. They send their kids to the public schools. They enforce education on them. They
Hmm.
send them to work. And they show them how to build business and how to grow business. And they do it within this society
Hmm.
successfully.
Hmm.
But for some reason, we feel that this society owes us something.
Hmm.
They have given us all a fair chance at the same opportunities. Even if we have a step down, let's say, or let's say we got 5 steps down. and the opportunity to gain. Part of
Mm-hmm.
that is because we fail to believe that this system can work for us. And
That
instead of
wasn't
saying,
always true.
right, right, that was never always true. Uh, but to participate in this wholly means that, for one, we got to do better with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And doing better with each other means, look, I'm going to trust you. You're going to trust me. We're going to work together, and we're not going to screw each other over.
Yeah,
And
I have
and
a.
if we do, we will do like, all right. I know a little bit about the Mexican community. Uh, if they find somebody doing them wrong, they handle it in house. They
Mm-hmm.
don't always involve social media and the police.
Mm-hmm.
They handle a lot of that stuff in house, and I believe we can do the same.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Is there any is there anything that is quote unquote black culture that does not derive that does not derive either from white Western society or was created by us here on this land?
I,
Is there
I
anything?
believe I, I I believe some of the things that we brought over that we were allowed to keep were music and dance, entertainment.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
We integrated that. Yeah.
yeah, and I won't go as far as to say food because we did have to learn to adapt to what was given to us here. But if you know the history, a lot of women would bring over spices and seeds in their hair
Mm-hmm.
on plate chips, and then they would plant it in their own little garden that they had that the slave master allowed them to tend to. Right. So we brought a lot of that stuff over. Outside of that, I don't know. I'm not saying there isn't more,
Yeah.
but I don't
I
know.
I think I we definitely want to research the spice thing because I've heard that before. And so but and I do know. I mean, it's pretty evident that rhythm that is a direct. Well, no, it's like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is a direct descent. It's a direct descent from African
Africa,
from
yeah.
Africa. Yeah, and
Hey,
so
I heard this one thing where they said uh black people dance to the beat of the music, white people dance to the lyrics of the music.
but no, my point for asking that is to say that uh I don't really think I personally don't think that there is any like black culture like
Culture.
something that 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 was created solely by us. Like 99.9% of the things that we consider black culture was either it was either created here, was either something that we adopted or something that was given to us either
Mhm.
by the planter class or by
Or the
southern whites that they recasted into our culture,
right,
or
the poor
it was
whites.
created, it was an offset of something that was here. Like for instance, hip hop, right? You know,
Right.
hip hop actually is the response, is the black response, the black community's response to disco.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's actually the descendant. That's how hip
Right.
hop came into being,
Right.
because white people in New York, white rich people in Manhattan had a place to party, and black people in the Bronx did not. And so they took jazz records, primarily jazz records, and sped them up so that people can dance, and then people would do like, they would MC over it,
See
so
over it.
make
Yeah.
lyrical stuff, and then that evolved. So I like I don't. To me, it's just all Western. It's all American. It's all Western. And my belief is, I don't think that black people are oppressed. I don't really buy into all of these number things that people bring out. But if I did, and if I wanted to encourage someone, let's say a young black man told me, I want to be the richest man in America, right? What
Hmm.
I would tell him is, you have to get over your racism.
Right.
Like that is the very first thing.
First thing, yeah.
That is the very first thing. You have to get over your racism, because you're not going to be able to participate in this system fully if you are not willing to work with white people or understand America as a
Comprehend.
culture.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and all that comes to it. So that's my position, and I am learning how to live a life like that. You know,
Yeah.
I am from the South, so it's hard. It's harder, but hopefully my children, I can raise them to live their life like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. So, all right. In closing, we hope everybody got something out of this. Uh, I don't know. Just we're gonna try to keep it coming, y'all. We appreciate anybody who watches, who pays attention, and we want all your comments, the negative ones, the good ones. He gonna read them. I'm not. I don't care what you got to say. Uh, it really don't matter to me. I teach my family. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much what my cousin here was talking about, man, and I tell them not to be concerned with outside noise. You know, they got to follow. You know what I'm saying? Follow first the Father, and all else will be given to you. So, but we don't believe in that. What is that? That preaching that pray for it and you will get it. Nah,
Oh, the name and the claim it prosperity
yeah,
message.
yeah. Prosperity message. Yeah, yeah. It ain't no prosperity message. You got to work for it, and that still don't mean you're gonna get it because it just may not be for you.
Amen.
So, but
All right, man.
you still got to work for it. So, ain't nobody gonna give y'all nothing. Wake up, get
Yeah,
out there, make something out of yourself. Do some
yeah.
push-ups, something.
So, so yeah, let's cover real quick. So we're planning on doing this every 2 weeks, 2 hours. Time may fluctuate, but hopefully we can sometime soon agree on like a definitive time.
Right, right.
Um, you can also check out our YouTube page. That will be coming up actually soon. I think it's Become an American Project, but uh, it should be one or two of them. I don't know. I gotta figure that
Yeah.
out. So yeah, just check us out. We're trying to have multiple content, trying to get more content uh, for everybody to listen to. Our goal is to like we said, to create a nonpartisan uh,
Factual
discussion,
base.
factual based discussion around American descendants of slaves, our ancestors. And so
And
that's all I got, man.
take it easy, bro. Love you, man.
All right, love you too, cuz. I'll see you later, man.
Later on.